A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're watching us from. My name is Derek Wesley, and this is Youth Impact, where we are not just talking about growing up, we are growing up talking. This show has been brought to you by Success Africa in partnership with KUTV. Thank you for staying tuned. In the wake of increased taxation, today our topic is the impacts of taxation on the youths. But before that, let's have a look from Success Africa, bringing us the Vox Pops.
My name is Macharia Maruki. I have my job here for fruits. Na naona venye tu inaendelea, lakini kwa saa hii kazi iko chini kiasi. Saa tunaomba Ruto teremsha maisha bana, teremsha gharama, maisha iko juu. Kama saa hii ukiangalia matunda kama hizi tulikuwa tunauza 300, saa hii ni 300 na bao. Kila kitu imepanda, maisha imepanda, gharama za maisha zimepanda. Sasa tufanye yani, sio tuteremshie vitu bana. Chenye sasa tunaweza fanya, tunaona akiteremsha zile vitu zingine kama mafuta, ateremsha bei ya unga, kila kitu, naona hata matunda itateremka. Tutaona biashara zarudi pale pale mahali zilikuwa. Juu saa hizi ziko juu sana.
My name is Michelle Sharma and I'm a business girl. Sahi ni kubaya, sahi tunasumbuana. Customer maybe kitu kama juice ilikuwa ya 50, sahi unauza so mnasumbuana na customer sana. Imekuwa kazi kama unaweza itisha mzigo, ukipiga simu baadaye unaambiwa bei imepanda. Sasa hapo saa hizo ulikuwa na pesa kidogo, saa hizo inabidi umeacha uchukue hiyo mzigo mpaka uanze kutafuta pesa ndio ujaze uchukue mzigo. Sasa maisha imekuwa ngumu yenyewe.
My name is Mark Mora. I just completed school. I'm waiting for graduation. But basically I'm trying to get a job as of now. Yeah. Okay. Like for now, because I don't live with my parents, I have to buy for some few items. So basically how it has affected me is that it has become a matter of what you really want and what you do. It has become a matter of what you need and not what you want. Get what I mean? It's like you have to basically consider the most important things that are really necessary, and and forgo some luxury basically. I think for me, I'd say keeping our leaders accountable. Like what happened with there was an issue with youth leader. The issue was really questioning some of the things that their leaders are doing. I think as youth, it's high time we awaken and we just make sure our leaders are accountable for their actions, so that we elect them there to work for the common mananchi. And I think it's important for them to actually make sure they are doing whatever it is they are elected to do.
Joining us on set to help us understand the impacts of taxation, especially on the youths, is Mr. Joseph Owande, who is a tax and legal advisory consultant at Keldin Company.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Joseph, for taking your time to come and help us understand what exactly is going on with our taxation system and how exactly it affects the youths. So for people who've not known you, as I have known you already, maybe you could introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Wesley. I'm delighted to be here. And my name is Joseph Owande, as has been stated. I'm a partner in charge of tax and legal at Keldin Company LLP. That is a firm that provides professional services in the areas of tax and legal, audit and assurance, and business advisory services. And we advise our clients on various tax implications on their businesses and any planned transactions that they may have here. So that's me in a nutshell.
So before anything else, how is it like working as a tax and legal consultant?
It's one of the most interesting and refreshing professions to work in the sense that in our country and largely better part of Africa, taxes and tax laws change every year. So every year you are on toes just trying to learn the new changes that have come. We know in our country, just a month or two ago, they introduced the Finance Act 2023, which was the biggest in all the finance acts we've ever had And our work was just to go through it and look at how it will affect various businesses and various aspects of the economy, and that is really exciting.
So basically every year it's good for business. But anyway, I want us to start from the finance act, as you've mentioned.
Yes.
And when we get to hear from the street interviews, we have students who are basically youths crying and saying that it has really taken a toll on them, specifically the adjustments in their fees and everything. But before we get to understand all that, do you think this generation, or rather the youths, appreciate taxing as a culture, or rather as a practice that they have to do as people?
No, it's difficult. You know, not only the youth, by the way, tax is one of those things no one will voluntarily pay because it's taken from you to give to the government. And sometimes you don't see anything in terms of services that are coming from the government as a result of that tax. So not only the youth, but many individuals, especially in our country, do not appreciate tax as much because they continue increasing with by day, but there's no corresponding commensurate service that is coming from the government. One of them is the education, and I know you're going to talk about it. It is expected that with the increase in taxes, then the education services or healthcare services become cheaper. But what we are seeing is that taxes are increasing by day. Education services, the cost of education is increasing, healthcare is increasing. So as a result of that mismatch, not very many people appreciate taxation as a way through which the government raises revenue.
So how does the current tax system, especially what we have currently, impact the youth and their lives?
There are many ways, but I think the one that affect them directly is that it reduces or it erodes the purchasing power of not only the youth, but anyone who is earning money. To the extent the tax rates are high, then it means what you are remaining with, which is called the disposable income, reduces. When your purchasing power reduces, then your ability to invest and to save also reduces. When that happens, then the prospects of a better future also diminishes.
Become minimal.
So the impact is multi-pronged, and it's the ripple effects can go as far as even affecting unemployment. And all these things, the people who suffer the most are the youth.
So what specific taxes are these that directly affect the youth? Of course, all of them will, at the end of the day, affect the youth. Yeah. But what exactly can we point on, especially in the taxing system and everything that we are having currently, that this one specifically goes deeply to the heart of a youth? Because we have people crying out here that before this government came into power, they would buy ugali from as low as 7 bob, but today it's 21 shillings. That is triple the amount they used to spend before. So what specific taxes affect the youth? Yeah,
so there are various forms of taxation and there are various types of taxes. One of them that affects them directly is the income tax. It is the tax you pay on the income you earn. So for those who are employed, it is the pay as you earn. The higher it goes, of course, right now the rates are as high as up to 35. So the higher you earn, the more you are taxed. And that means when the rate increases, then the amount of money left with you to spend on what you need goes down. Another one is the VAT on essential products. Young people, whereas they don't invest or purchase the very complicated items in the market, but there are those essential issues that when they are touched from a tax perspective, like transport, for example, things like any food item, when it is taxed, then the prices go high. And at the end of the day, because of the reduced purchasing power and disposable income, then the young people have so little to remain to do any other thing beyond just surviving. So most young people, as a result of the current tax regime, are surviving. So they are living hand to mouth because of the fact that their disposable income have reduced. So the various taxes, the pay as you earn, the VAT,
income tax,
and also the import duty on essentials. Like if you increase import duty on rice, for example, then the prices of rice become high. And as a result, these are basic things that young people, especially bachelors,
they get to consume.
When you make their prices very high, then you are hurting them directly.
So how does the taxing system influence the financial burden on young people, especially those who are getting into the workspace currently?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of the housing levy. Now, the housing levy as it is, of course, the proposal initially was that you can contribute and withdraw the money after some 7 years or so.
Yes.
But when the act came, when it was signed, then what we saw is that it's now a tax. So you pay and you don't get anything back. Now, if you take a percentage of a young person's income and tie it to something long-term as a housing levy, which they cannot reap the benefit immediately, then there's some level of financial burden that you're putting on them. They're saving for something they're not going to benefit
They're not going to
on
benefit from
anytime soon, and they don't have even the right to decide where they're going to have the house and things like that. So as a result, then when all these taxes are put together, you realize that number one, the investors will go out of the country. What that does, it brings unemployment. Or we've seen companies close. The people who suffer the most are the youth, because their experience is minimal,
yeah.
and so they're not so valuable to the companies. They're easily laid off, and they suffer as a result of that. Some of them are in debt. You have HELB loan that you're servicing, and all these are on you at the same time. And there's no particular tax incentive that targets the youth. And I think it's time the youth have an association. You'll hear every year that tax policies have been shaped to favor, for example, manufacturers. It's because they have the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. You'll hear tax policies favoring insurance industry. You'll hear tax incentives favoring the banking industry and all these industries. It is because they can lobby. And in any government, no incentive is given to you without you going for it. And
so you basically have to ask for it for you to receive it.
You don't wait and say that we have politicians representing us. There's no such thing. You have to come together and go for it, and then it will be given.
Definitely. Yeah. So I'd like us to take a short break, but before we do that, when we come back, we'd want to maybe understand, how does the taxing system affect the youth's ability to save up for a better future and for a better tomorrow? So hold that thought. We take a short break. When we come back, we bring you more of the same. Welcome back to Youth Impact. Keep it locked as the conversation keeps going. So, Joseph, before we took a break, we were getting to understand how the tax enables young people to save. Maybe if you could help us understand that, because I'd really want to start saving as a young person. But there's so much tax really weighs me down as a young person, and I believe it happens so much to other people.
Yeah, thanks. So taxation as a tool, a fiscal policy tool, can be used to encourage or discourage any behavior in the country. And one of them is investment and saving. Depending on the tax policy, one is then moved to save or not to save. I'll give you an example. If there's a policy, for example, that the government can bring to ensure that any investment income that has been earned by a young person is exempt from tax. For example, if you save on treasury bills, regardless of the nature of the treasury bills, and the government says any income you earn will be exempt. Or if they say that your long-term savings, when you finally withdraw them, the interest you gain from it will be exempt. Then in that case, you motivate the young people to put in money in savings and also investments, because they know it is better to save than to spend. Why? Because when I spend, VAT is here with me and there's nothing I'm getting. So tax policies can be used. I'm only praying that one day we will get a fair representation at the table where tax policies are being drafted. Because if you don't have a representation, then no one voices your ideas, no one voices your concerns. And then at the end of the day, you don't get any incentives. Year on year, no youth do not get any incentives. Yet there's a huge population. And these are the people who start businesses to build the next economy when all those older economies are passed. So I think there's a lot more that can be done. For example, why should a business started by a 25-year-old pay the same amount of tax in terms of the rate as a business started by a 55-year-old who is stable in his life, in his career, and has paid all the expenses he wants in this world. There should be a difference between a business started by a young person in terms of taxation and a business started by an older person in terms of taxation. As it is right now, it is flat. We are all equal before tax law, which should not be the case.
Before Caesar, we are all equal.
Yes.
So you've mentioned that there's actually a shift. Young people get to pay the same tax as old people.
Yes.
Yet these are the people who are saving up for the future generation, for the future governments and all that. So do we have discussions already ongoing to maybe reform the tax laws to ensure that young people are well accommodated in the same system? Because we have people whom we elected as young people to go and represent us. So yeah, do we have discussions already ongoing?
The discussions have been there for quite a while. The only challenge that makes them not see the light of the day is that there's no sufficient support. And normally, for there to be sufficient support, then you must rally behind a huge mass of people and develop a case for yourselves. The challenge the youth have is that they have not come together to say that this is the voice we are speaking. I'll give you an example. There are various trade associations and trade unions in this country. And when they want something, you'll see them come together as one. And they say, this is
what we want.
Manufacturers. These are the motor assemblers, for example. And this is what we want. And this is what we are bringing on the table because we have the numbers in terms of volumes and the amount of money we are pushing in the economy. Today, you won't even have data as to how much the youth are contributing to the economy. Why? Because if that data comes out, then the government knows, for example, that there'll be a serious case to vouch for the tax incentives. So we just need an enabling environment. And this enabling environment is not to be given the young people on a silver platter. They have to go for it. Each young person must find a way of ensuring that they make a contribution. Normally, for example, when the Finance Bill 2023 came out, people were told to do public participation. How many young people did that? Not so many. And it is through that public participation, if 1 million or 2 million young people say the same thing, that we want a tax incentive on a youth-started startup, 1 million or 2 million, that's a voice to reckon with. You cannot ignore it. But when we don't contribute, then we don't get the tax incentives that we have. So currently, not so much. But we hope that with the increase in awareness, then one day we will be there.
We can only do nothing but hope. So my other question, because young people are mostly people who've come out of school and the HELB loan is already weighing them down pretty much. So do we have maybe an alternative way to ensure that these young people who are coming out from school with this loan already that has been given to them by the same government that they've paid tax, actually the loans are given from the taxes that they've paid. So do we have an alternative way for the government to maybe reconsider and see that these people are able to pay their loans yet still survive?
Yeah, so one of the ways, and is part of things probably we will propose in the next budgeting cycle, is to make HELB loan repayment an allowable expense. What I mean by an allowable expense for young people is that when you have your income and you want to compute your tax, then you deduct the HELB loan repayment from your income and then you pay tax on the whatever is left. That is not the case currently. You pay before you deduct the HELB. So if the government can make a provision that HELB loan becomes what we call technically an allowable expense, then that will motivate, number one, it will motivate the young people to pay their HELB loan in good time. And what that does, there'll be enough money to loan to the next generation of students. But also it will help the young people have sufficient funds in their pockets for savings and also for investment. So from an HELB loan and any other kind of loan perspective, and especially for the education loan, there should be that push. Another one, which may not necessarily be directly tied to tax, there should be a policy where institutions that hire talent locally make certain payments as a percentage of the salary of any staff they hire. Why am I saying this? A university, for example, University of Nairobi, will work so hard to bring out talent out here, which will then be absorbed into the job market.
Yes.
But there's no contribution these employers make to the university that trained and developed this talent they're hiring. And so today we find universities are struggling with debt, and they are increasing school fees because of that. But if the employers who are benefiting from the talent they are creating at the university could also contribute,
Chip in,
even if it's
actually.
2% of the salary every month, then that could help cushion the debt that goes towards education.
Wow, so insightful. So maybe my very last question would be, we've talked about how much the government and how much the taxing system is so pressing to the youths, but one thing that I'd like to understand, do we as the youth understand and appreciate that taxing is our priority as people? Do we really appreciate the whole system? Do we understand the system?
I wonder why we cannot have tax as a subject somewhere in the higher learning institutions, because then if you don't have an understanding of tax, and tax is a daily encounter, then what that does is that ignorance alone will make you lose out on certain benefits that are there. But besides that, tax laws are becoming very complex. Even if you wanted to keep up with it, it's becoming very complex, which is against one of the canons of taxation, which is simplicity. If the government could make tax and tax laws as simple as possible, then number one, it will be easy to comply. Number two, the fact that people understand it will make them willing to do even more to contribute to the exchequer. But the tax laws as they are right now are becoming more and more complex, and this adds to the ignorance that is there, because someone just thinks about iTax and how to navigate it. They just get tired and they say, you know what, let me file a nil return.
Let it be.
Yes.
So I want you, as you're giving your parting shot, looking at your camera, speak to this one youth who's I hold so dearly, the one who bought ugali at 7 bob and now it's at 21 bob. Please, I know that they're probably losing hope, but because you're a professional, you're the best person to speak to them. Please.
No, thank you. Should you be in the situation just as Wesley has described, do not lose hope. There are many ways of surviving. The government and the policymakers at the moment may increase taxes, but through hard work, determination, you can also increase your income, so that whereas the tax is taking a portion of it, it is sizable enough to sail you through these economic times. What I know is that such economic times do not last for so long. It is just a matter of time, and things will change because we are a resilient people, and we've proved this over and over. COVID taught us this, and this is not unique to us, and we are able to go beyond where we are today. The past generations found it harder, and they managed to sail through it through their resilience. We can also do it if given enough resources, and if we remain focused, determined, and we work hard towards achieving our own personal goals.
Well, thank you so much. That was very encouraging. I know that they're not going to lose hope. They're going to take care of their incomes so that as they're paying tax, they have something to remain with.
Yes.
So thank you so much for taking your time to come and speak to us for this very complex topic, not just to me, but to everybody else. I believe it's so hard to understand.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you. We take a short break, and when we come back, we bring you the Youth of the Week. Together with his team, James Ouma, the founder of Livesong Kenya, are creating a generation of men who are championing for human rights. Let's have a look.
Livesong Kenya is an organization that helps boys and young men to realize their full potential and focus on what they have as opposed to what they don't have. The organization majorly works with boys and men who are facing stigma or trauma, those who have gone through prison or rehab, or those who just want a safe space where they can heal and get restored back to the community. James Ouma, the founder of Livesong Kenya, uses life skills, life coaching, mentorship, restorative justice, and transformational housing to mentor boys and young men. Juma's father died when he was 13. He believed that he lacked so many things in life, including someone who could take him to college to study journalism. He later realized that he needed to change his story and decided to have a different life song. He started waking up knowing he was responsible for the results he wanted to see in his life, and that's how his life song changed. That is how he founded Livesong Kenya. The organization started as a children's reading club, but when James went to prison in 2012, he changed it into an organization that is today serving boys and young men. His wish is that men will join the cause to shed a ray of hope in the lives of the boys and young men so that their lives soon can change for the better.
Thank you so much for staying tuned to Youth Impact, proudly brought to you by Success Africa in partnership with KUTV. As always, we say, stay curious and keep making a difference. Until next time, I have been your host, Derek Wesley.